Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue our journey watching 90 Day Fiancé Happily Ever After, Season 5. Let's get to the show.
Brazilian party.
Yes, we need to go. That's a Brazilian dance and fun.
Honestly, I'm a little tired. I kind of want to just go back to the hotel.
Maybe Saturday night is a good night.
Yeah.
I'm tired. This is fun, but
You old people.
Yeah.
I am upset because Colt like old man, grandpa, and just stay home.
I'm not Brazilian. I'm an American.
Yeah, but you're dating with a Brazilian girl.
It doesn't matter. She's dating an American.
Okay, so now they're in an argument about culture, which is the surface stuff. Down underneath is people, they just have a different preference right now. She wants to go out and dance. He wants to go home. Both are fine. You can have preferences. You can want to go out and dance and stay out late at night, and you can also just want to go home and go to the hotel because you're tired. Both of those things are fine, and the fact that they can't agree to at least validate each other. Now, you can have a negotiation. You could have say something like, could you just maybe do it a little bit? Can you maybe get a little bit of energy going? Or can you try to expand your horizons? Or, I don't know, just little requests. But this points to two worries that I have. One is that they're not actually compatible. Because why would they be? It's pretty rare that you find someone that is that compatible with you. When you first start dating, you quickly realize how hard it is to find a compatible human with you and your lifestyle. Now, I would say that dancing at night isn't usually a central compatibility that people are looking for. But anyway, that worries me. It's just another example that they're not a good match in the same way that I don't think Colt and Larissa were a good match. Right from the beginning, I was just like, how are these two people even involved in each other's lives? They don't seem to be similar in any way. They don't seem to really like each other. So this worries me in this respect. But the other thing that worries me is that the style in which they're trying to negotiate this conflict is not a recipe for success. They're just arguing now. They're just accusing the other person of, I don't even know what, some sort of cultural misunderstanding. You don't understand. Let's rewind this and watch. There's just so many other ways that they could be talking about this. And I guess I have to level with y'all. When I watch Colt and Larissa on this show, it's hard for me emotionally. As a therapist, I'm a human being. As a human, I'm a human being. When I'm working with a client, I actually can get involved. I have power. I can do something. I can try something. Maybe it'll fail, but at least I can try something. When I watch these people on the show, I'm powerless and I feel powerless and I watch the train wreck and I have empathy for them, and so it worries me. And there's a certain level or a certain degree to which Colt and Larissa were in terms of their conflict and toxicity that was just hard to absorb as a viewer and as a commentator. I guess if I was just lounging on the couch and watching, I think it would be easier, but I'm watching very closely and I'm trying to come up with something to say, and so I feel like I'm more involved in their lives in watching this. And so I'll just be honest with you, as I see this, I'm worried that it's going to go down a similar road, and then I'm going to have to sit through and watch all that. Now, I know I have the option to just stop watching this show, or at least this couple, right? No one's forcing me. But I'm such a completist. I hate things to end in the middle, and so I feel like that overrides my judgment to say, like, I don't know if this is good for me emotionally to watch. And this brings up another thing that I don't think I've talked about enough, is that I would be surprised if you weren't triggered emotionally by watching these people, particularly Colt and Larissa, and I guess now Jess. It would be very strange to me if you didn't have some emotional reaction. There's something about it. I think that's why they're interesting to watch. I think that's why they've been on repeat seasons, is because the viewer has an emotional reaction. And when you have an emotional reaction, it involves you in the show and makes it, quote unquote, entertaining. But we have to be careful about what's happening to us emotionally. And this is something that I want to model for you and also ask that you think about for yourself. We've all been through relational traumas. We've all been hurt. We've all been scared. We've all been traumatized by relationships. controlling people, hurtful people, people that seem to not care about our feelings, people that cheated on us or something. A lot of those feelings are unresolved, and to some extent, they can never be fully resolved anyway. But some of us have very significant traumas along these lines that have not been resolved, maybe even dating back to when we were young children. And so I ask and I hope that you monitor your feelings as you watch the show and as you watch me watching the show, because I could say something that could trigger something in you. And so I hope for your sake that you take care of yourself in that way. That one, you find a therapist. I mean, I could see a legitimate session being spent talking about how watching me watch this show caused a lot of feelings to come up for you. I could see that being a legitimate session topic where you sit down and you'd be like, man, I was watching this reaction video, this guy on YouTube, and that he was watching this reality TV show, and I found myself just getting really angry and really upset, and it really like destabilized, and I felt I could hear myself screaming at the computer monitor, or I could feel myself, all those memories started coming back to me, and I just want to talk about that with you, therapist. I could see that being a very legitimate use of one's time in therapy, and the reason why I say this is that if you're not in therapy, get a therapist, and if you don't have a therapist to check in with this about, there's a chance that watching the show or even watching these reaction videos could produce enough trauma reactivity for you that it might not be good for you. As a therapist, I know that to be very true. And when I'm working with clients, I have the ability to check in and ask how they're doing. There's a whole protocol to trauma therapy that involves a lot of emotional regulation, a lot of emotion communication, a lot of making sure that they don't have spikes in distress, this kind of thing. But there are other contexts that I work where I don't have that ability. So as a professor, I work with students and I will teach them how to be a therapist. And one of the things that we do is we help therapists become aware of their own issues. Because if you're not aware of your own issues, they're going to become triggered when you're working with your clients, and you might hurt your clients because you're being triggered in a way that you don't know, or in a way that you don't have a system around of how to deal with it in the moment. And so I will have students work on their own traumas, but they are not my client. Now, we require our students to be in therapy. I don't have the ability to check in with them the way I can with my clients. And so I'm pretty accustomed, because I've been doing this for 20 plus years, I'm pretty accustomed to saying these words, to saying to my students of, you are not my client, and I don't have the relationship with you that I can monitor, or frankly the time to monitor if you are having spikes of distress. And so it's important for you to be aware of your spikes in distress and talk with your therapist about it. And also tell me, I got to check out of this. What we're talking about right now in class is too triggering for me. I got to take a break, and absolutely take a break. But I don't have time to check in with you on that. And so if you don't monitor it yourself with your therapist, and you just stay exposed to this class material, there's a chance that you'll be harmed. And in the same way, when you're watching, you have to monitor yourself. You have to say, am I having distress right now? Am I getting really worked up around this? Now, a little bit of emotion is great. There's nothing, we're always feeling some emotion, so that's fine, a little bit of emotion. But really the key is, am I feeling distress? Am I having nightmares? Am I feeling uneasy? Is watching these people, is it making me feel bad? Is it reminding me of traumas that I've been through that I'm still not resolved in? And is it giving me that icky feeling? Am I watching it for good reasons or for bad reasons? These are questions you need to talk about with your therapist. And I'm not joking about that. Like, there are people, I'm quite sure, that they have been traumatized in ways that this show absolutely will trigger for you. You need to protect yourself. And one of the notions that is out there in society is that, well, it's just a TV show, what's the big deal? But when we have been trying, let me just give a scenario just to maybe concretize it a little bit. So let's say that you had a past relationship with someone that acted like Colt. And in that relationship, that person really hurt you and scared you and systematically broke you down and made you feel like you were a worthless human being. And when you watch Colt, it reminds you of those feelings. And you've either been to minimal therapy or no therapy around that trauma, and you haven't been able to recover for whatever reason. And you're watching the show, and as you're watching Colt, it's just like, oh, I hate this guy. I just, I just want to smash his face in, or whatever impulses you're having. Well, in the background, as you're having those conscious thoughts, like, oh, I hate that guy. He's such a sleazebag. I hate men like that. Those are the conscious thoughts that you're having. But in the background are spikes of distress where your cortisol and your heart rate and your fists and the sweat on your palms and your tightness, your body is going into fight or flight as you're watching this, because it's reminding you of what happened in the past. And as you're watching, your whole body is doing this, but you're unaware of it. And then afterwards, you just feel like you've been through the ringer after watching the TV show. And maybe because when you were young, no one cared about your feelings enough that you don't look at your feelings, and you have to find some other way of coping with it through aggression or anger or alcohol or marijuana, or some other way of distracting yourself from the deep distress that you are having, understandably, given your past. And honestly, I can't imagine anyone watching these two people without it triggering something in their past. Anyway, so I hope that makes sense to people. Let me know in the comments if that makes sense to you. This notion that I hope for your sake that when you're doing anything in life, let alone watching me react to the show, that you're occasionally stopping and saying, what's going on? What's going on with me? And that's what I did earlier. As I was saying earlier, I was just like, oh, I'm feeling that feeling again that I was getting as I was watching Colt and Larissa. I'm getting that like distressing feeling. I don't like it. It's not a good feeling. And if I stay in this zone for too long without relaxing and checking in and expressing it, I'm just going to go further and further into fight or flight. And that's not good for my body and my soul and my spirit and my mind and my psychology and my sleep and my stress level. It's not good for me. I hope that you can monitor that for yourself and get the help that you need. Hey, deserving listeners, as you know, I'm constantly recommending that people go to therapy. We all need therapy from time to time. One of the options available that is definitely worth checking out is BetterHelp.com. So if you're looking for a therapist, I would give it a try by going to BetterHelp.com/Kirk. Make sure you use the /Kirk because you get 10% off your first month, and it helps us out. I get a lot of emails from you saying that you're looking for a therapist. As you watch these videos, I know many of you have been motivated to find your own therapist. But I know it can be really hard to find a good one to work with. Like I said, one of the options available to try is BetterHelp.com/Kirk. And you should know that this service is available to clients worldwide, which is amazing. I've been told that you can start communicating with your therapist in under 24 hours. You can message with your counselor anytime. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions. And I've been told that it's often less expensive than in-person therapy. So go to BetterHelp.com/Kirk to get 10% off your first month of therapy today.
In my mind, my last night with Jess would have been us having drinks somewhere quiet, going back to the hotel and just having sex. Not out with her friends. She can do that any night of the week. You really want to go with your friends?
What's the problem?
Leave me? No. I don't want that.
So, right, this is ungood. There's nothing wrong with wanting two different things. She wants to go dancing, he doesn't. Nothing wrong with that. You can have those differences. How do you negotiate those differences? Well, for her, she had her approach, which I should rewind because I kind of forget exactly what she said or if it was her from her friends. And then he had his approach, which we can definitely say isn't very respectful of her. You know, it's like, no, we're not doing that. Kind of a stern voice, which is very concerning. But anyway, let's rewatch that whole sequence.
In my mind, my last night with Jess would have been us having drinks somewhere quiet, going back to the hotel and just having sex. Not out with her friends. She can do that any night of the week. You really want to go with your friends?
What's the problem?
Leave me? No. I don't want that.
She need to go with you and follow you?
Why not?
Are you control her?
Yikes. Why can't they just disagree and agree to disagree? Okay, you want to go out. I don't. Feel free to go out with your friends. I'm going to go back to the hotel. I'm just really tired. Why can't they just do that?
Yeah.
I'm asking her, I don't want you to go.
Okay, you don't want to, but she wants. The way he say, no, you can't go at the party. You know, I think men can control girls, so I don't approve it. I don't understand you why you control my friend.
We're a couple. We're not married, but we're still in a relationship.
Now you're a couple. Why your mom doesn't know about her?
I don't know, but I've treated guys who have had issues with control. I've treated domestic violence perpetrators and people who I wouldn't characterize as were domestic violence perpetrators, but who had issues of control. All the time, I would find underneath that controlling behavior, underneath the efforts to control another person, were feelings of fear and hurt and just either complete unawareness of those feelings or a lot of judgment about those feelings. She wants to go dancing. He doesn't. If we were to take a guess at the foundational feeling, my guess is that he feels hurt, that she doesn't want to spend time with him, and that he's worried that she's going to go dancing and maybe meet someone else. I don't know. That's just a guess. But at the very least, I'm guessing he's hurt that she doesn't care about what he wants to do that night. Nothing wrong with that. It's okay to be hurt. You can be hurt by that. But what do we do with that? Well, then you don't express that, and you might not even want to acknowledge it. It's happening. That hurt and worry is happening. And what I would find with a lot of people I worked with was they would judge that and really hate that about themselves because they were judged and criticized for having feelings like that when they were young. And then they transform that into, well, I got to do something to address those feelings. I can't acknowledge them and I can't express them because that's too vulnerable. But I've got to do something about that. Well, what if I controlled her so that she were systematically broken down and always did what I wanted her to do? And then I could make sure that she was close to me, and then I wouldn't be hurt and I wouldn't be worried anymore. Now, that's evil, right? That's wrong. It's immoral to control someone else in that way. It's immoral to break someone down so that they don't feel like they can make their own choices. But when you see it in that way, it makes logical sense, meaning that you could see how someone would think, well, if I control, then it will address my feelings. Now, of course, it doesn't ultimately, because what happens is as you control someone, the other person has two options. They either run away from you, effectively you just lose the person, and then you really don't have your needs being met, or they act like they are compliant with you, but inside they hate you, or they're starting to turn themselves off from their own feelings just so they can cope with you. And they're not really there. They're almost like a shell of a person because you've broken them down. You've given them a very difficult choice where they're like, okay, in order for me to cope with this very controlling person, I have to suppress parts of my personality just to deal with this person. And then they're not really there. They're not fully there. But they're close to you and you're controlling them. So you either get someone running away from you, which is not what you want because you're looking for attachment security, or you're getting them to be close to you physically, but emotionally they're not close to you. So either way, through controlling behavior, you're not getting your needs met. So what I would find with guys is I would explain this whole thing. And by the way, I would work with women too who had this issue for sure. And getting to know that defense. And so it's like, okay, you got to be vulnerable. You got to get to those feelings. You got to communicate those feelings. Then the person actually will care about you in a direct way, and you can get your needs met. And you don't have to control the other person. Now, I will say that this took a long time of deprogramming. For some people, again, particularly men, they've been taught that they have the right to control women or that they should control women or something along those lines. It was modeled to them or taught to them by society or something. And so there's these ideas that, well, I'm having a feeling, I don't like it, and she's just going to do what I tell her to do because that's what life has taught me before. That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to control. That's what makes men is the fact that they can keep their women in line. That kind of those very misogynistic, sexist ideas. And it takes a long time to deprogram that. It takes a long time.
Jess.
Jess. Jess, will you look at me?
But anyway, so the reason why I started talking about that is because I wonder if for Colt, he absorbed a lot of toxic masculinity ideas that he's supposed to talk down, he's supposed to be superior, he's supposed to control. And because she wants to go out with her friends, his solution to that is to step into what he believes to be the masculine ideal, which is to tell her, no, you're not going to do that tonight, which she doesn't like, and who would?
The way he say, no, you can't go at the party. You know, I think men can control girls, so I don't approve it. I don't understand you why you control my friend.
We're a couple. We're not married, but we still are in a
now
relationship.
you're a couple. Why your mom doesn't know about her?
Jess.
Jess. Jess, will you look at me?
Just leave me alone. Give me alone.
Jess.
Give me alone. Give her time.
Yikes. Oh my goodness. So there's definitely a vibe there where he is being aloof and forceful. Jess, and she's like, whoa, leave me alone, leave me alone. Just that little microcosm of a relationship moment is extremely troublesome. Just there's so many red flags there. I'm extremely worried about these two. We'll see. I always hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. So let's see what happens.
I'm a little nervous.
All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. I hope that everyone out there takes care of themselves and takes care of others because we all deserve it. We really, really do.